Hello everybody, it is me, the one, the only Divine Iconoclast, and today I'm going to be reviewing the new EP by the legendary thrash metal band Sodom called Partisan. Now, a bit of history about the band of Sodom, although probably not needed, but I'll still give it anyways just in case. Sodom is a thrash metal band from Germany, and I say thrash metal band like that because they've been known to have heavy influences of death metal and black metal throughout their music, and a lot of people even consider their first album in 1985 Sign of the Black Mark, I think is what it's called, or Sign of the Evil Mark, I forget exactly what it's called. But a lot of people consider the first album, Sodom's, to be the first black metal album. I'm of the camp that it's probably the first Bathory album. That's the first black metal album. But you never know. I don't really mind that much. And I don't think I've ever actually listened to the first Sodom album, so I can't confirm whether or not it actually is black metal because, you know, I am the ultimate heavy metal authority. I decide everything, what band is what genre. That is my final decision. If I say Cannibal Corpse is the new wave of British heavy metal, it is. And it is for that matter. So please update your Wikipedia articles. Anyways, yeah, and they, after that first album, they pretty much went in a pretty, you know, thrash metal direction, with black metal influences, mainly in the vocal style, with some shrieking black metal vocals, although not in the exact same way that maybe, like, a Dark Throne would do it, but more rather in, like, a Bathory kind of way, you know, maybe kind of like how Quorthon would do it, but although not exactly like Quorthon, but I'm pretty sure you understand what I'm saying. General black metal vibe to the vocals. Thrash metal riffs. They had some classic albums in the 80s. This carried on throughout the 90s, and I believe they even make music all the way up until today. Well, actually, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure they, like, never broke up, I guess. That's the better thing to say. Because obviously they still make music today if I'm reviewing an album from today. But what I mean by that is I don't think they ever, like, broke up or anything. I think they've been consistently releasing music throughout, you know, from the mid-80s to now. So that's pretty good. And they were a huge influence on black metal and death metal. And we're reviewing their stuff today. I also really like Sodom. I'm gonna review my, I guess from now on I'll reveal my personal bias towards the band, if I don't already in my videos. I really like Sodom. I enjoy their stuff. My favorite album of theirs is probably Tapping the Vein, but if it's not Tapping the Vein, then it's Agent Orange. I really like that one. Although I'm pretty sure that's the pick that everyone has. I'm not sure though. I honestly don't talk to many metalheads. I just listen to stuff. Anyways, how does this album hold up compared to other Sodom albums? Well, as always, the vocals on this album are freaking awesome. I love them. I don't know the vocalist's name, but he always does a good job. They're really black metal-esque, especially on this album. Because I haven't really listened to that much modern Sodom stuff. I mainly listen to their stuff in the 80s and early 90s. But I really, really like the vocals on this album. They really much remind me of the black metal kind of vocal style. And the production on this album is also really, really good. It has a really thrash metal vibe to it, like a mid-80s, late 80s thrash metal vibe, maybe like a Testament kind of production style on this thing. The drums, amazing sounding. I love the drums. They sound great. The bass, you can't really hear it that well, but whenever I don't even know if there's a moment on the album where you can't hear the bass. But yeah, the bass, it's probably fine. The guitar sounds really, really nice. It sounds like your standard thrash metal guitar. And the best way to describe the music on this album, although I think this is kind of a good way to describe Sodom, well, a lot of the Sodom, not all of it though, but the best way to describe the music on this album is like if Death was a thrash metal band instead of a death metal band. Now I know that is a bit derogatory considering I'm almost positive that Sodom formed before Death, and they for sure released music before Death. I think 2 albums before Death released their first one. But I think that's a pretty good way of describing it. If you're a death metal fan, you want to know what this sounds like. What if Death was a thrash metal band? Pretty good way of doing this. This songwriting on this album is really good for the most part. I should also mention this is only 2 songs on this album. And there's 2 songs and then some live tracks. I'm not reviewing the live tracks because that isn't new material. But as far as I know, these 2 songs on here that aren't live tracks are brand new material, so I'm going to be reviewing those tracks. There's really good songwriting on it, though. There's constant switch-ups between riffs to make it to where it's never static and boring. It really keeps the music sounding fresh and stuff like that. And also on the first track, they use a disco beat in it, which I find hilarious, a disco drum beat. And I think it was a really creative use of it. I don't remember exactly what it sounded like. It's been a little bit since I've listened to this. But I remember really, really liking how they really creatively use a disco beat on the first track, which sometimes metal bands do use, but it's not all that often. Another example, if you want to know what I'm talking about, is the album, the song The Blonde Beast by Marduk off of French Vine. that also uses the same disco beat that's in this song. Excuse me. There's also a lot of really haunting sounding parts, and it sounds like a horror music soundtrack, especially in the first song, which is called Partisan. It's the title track. Sometimes it honestly, like, honest to God, sounds like a horror movie soundtrack, and I really, really enjoy it. It really adds to the atmosphere and everything, and it just shows how diverse the songwriting is in this album. Also, every single guitar solo on this album, which I think there's only like 2 of them probably, but all of them, they all kick ass. Like, they're really freaking good. I love the guitar solos in this album. I think that just a good way to describe this album also is just, it draws influences from so many different places. A lot of the riffs on here also kind of sound like punk rock riffs. Maybe not punk rock, but maybe like hardcore punk riffs. Like, it feels like a hardcore band could use those riffs with very slight adjustments to them. The album is just incredibly diverse. It draws heavily from death metal, black metal, thrash metal, and hardcore punk in terms of its influences. I very much enjoyed the 2 tracks that are on here. However, downside is there's only 2 tracks, and that greatly impacts the score on this thing. And I know what you may be thinking, well, why does the length of the album impact the score? It's like, well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like if they made an 8 or 9 track album with this consistency of songwriting, it could honestly be a 9. But the fact that we only have 2 songs to sample what the entire sound is like, we don't have good enough, in my opinion, I don't have good enough results or anything like that, you know. I can't fully formulate an opinion on an album with only 2 songs. Like, I can't rate it as high as an album with 8 songs of the same quality, because less work went into it, and it's harder to keep up the same, you know, it's easy to make 2 tracks a 9 out of 10, rather than it is to make like 8 or 9 tracks equal to a 9 out of 10 in terms of an album. And so for that, I'm docking off some points from this thing. But I still think if you're a big Sodom fan and you don't mind getting an album with only 2 new tracks on it, or if you just want to hear the live tracks, I still fully recommend you buy it. I know for sure it's on my wish list of albums right now. I love Sodom. They're a great band, and this is on there for sure. And this also makes me want to check out new Sodom. I haven't really listened to anything past maybe like M16. I forget which year that came out. I think that one was like 92. Or no, that was Tapping the Vein that came out in 92. I don't remember what year M16 came out in. But I haven't really listened to anything past M16, so I really want to go and listen to that now. I love both of the songs on here, but my favorite song on the whole album is the song Conflagration. Incredible song. It is legitimately one of my favorite Sodom songs. I love it to death. It is the most diverse album, the most diverse song on the whole album. Incredible, incredible, incredible songwriting. The song Partisan is also good, but not nearly as good as the song Conflagration. For the war songs, there are none, because there's only 2 songs in here, and I really enjoy both of them. My overall score for this thing, due to its length, despite all the great things I said about it, and I really do believe everything I said, this album, if it was like a full album, fantastic album, it would have been one of Sodom's best, in my opinion. But overall, I'm going to have to give this entire thing a 7 out of 10. Which on my scale is a good album. It's not great though, because of the length of it. It's gonna take you about, I think, 8 or 9 minutes to listen to the whole thing, and to me that's just not enough length to consider an album amazing, you know? Although, I mean, this is also coming from like a really big punk rock fan, so I mean, although there's really no 8-minute or 9-minute albums that I listen to. Yeah, anyways, the new Sodom album, Partisan, I'm giving this thing a 7 out of 10. Make sure to tell me why I'm right down in the comments and validate my opinions, because that's the only reason I make YouTube videos. And this is the only Divine Iconoclast getting finished with this video.